Coming up on Theater Talk.
This is my story, a new category to make you dance and clap your hands. This is my choir.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation and Wynette Richardson. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins Doloff, and here with me is my guest co-host, Elisabeth Vincentelli, a critic for so many publications I won't list them. Elisabeth, there is a wonderful new musical show downtown. Well, it's not downtown, it's way west in New York City, K-pop. And we're going to talk about it today.
Yes, and we are here with a team from K-pop. The book writer Jason Kim, Jason Eagan, who's the founding artistic director at Ars Nova, which is one of the three co-producers for the show, along with the Mai Theater Company and the Woodshed Collective.
That's right.
And we have director of the show, Teddy Bergman.
Congratulations, you all. Who wants to tell us a little bit about what K-pop is? How about you, Teddy?
Probably first K-pop, the phenomenon, maybe.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Before,
Sure.
just
All right, yeah.
two sentences, easy.
Which I didn't know about.
K-pop, the phenomenon, it stands for Korean pop, and it is a massive sensation that originates from South Korea that is an addictive blend of world pop in this sort of incredible fizzy cocktail that has been extraordinarily successful all over Asia, and in fact all over the world, with the exception of the United States, which is actually one of our founding premises for our show.
Yes.
Which is why has it not crossed over to the United States?
Except for Psy, as you say.
Yes.
Right.
Except for the phenomenon that was Gangnam Style for that moment. And K-pop, the show itself, is an immersive musical that asks that very question of why K-pop has not crossed over to the United States. And the means by which we ask that question is the show tells the story of the launch of a K-pop label called JTM Entertainment, as they are attempting to come to New York City and lay down roots and engage with an audience to try and figure out what the secret formula is to
Of making it in
launching
America.
K-pop in America.
So Teddy, you and Jason conceived, I guess, came up with the concept of the show. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because it's not your linear musical or show. It's more like a choose your own adventure almost, although you're guided through various tracks
Yes.
of potential narrative.
Jason and I and my theater company, Woodshed Collective, which is one of the co-producers of the show, conceived of the show itself, which is takes the form of introducing you to the roster of artists that are on this label. So there's a solo artist named Mui. There's a boy band named Fate and a girl band named Special K. And the audience gets to meet, in separate parts, gets to meet all of these fabulous artists that are part of the roster.
And they perform for us. They're wonderful.
They certainly do.
Such
It's
a
extraordinary
wonderful cast. Jason, there's a very deep issue which is being explored. I mean, this is a fun musical.
I'm afraid we're making it sound really dry.
Yeah.
but
I
really want to say that the show is I found it so intoxicatingly fun.
Yes.
Because we're like, oh, there's different tracks, and it's
no.
all about this phenomenon. Yeah, it's really incredibly
You kick it off
fun.
at the beginning. We're all together, and these kids, what I call kids, are performing, and I'm just like bouncing and tapping. It's so wonderful. But at what point in this process did this far deeper issue of Korean identity being threatened come in?
Oh, I would say that this was a fairly recent discovery.
Really?
Well, recent as 2 years ago, so I guess not that recent. But I think we sat around talking about what the show could be and should be for a good year and a half, and then we really started to pin down on the issues of who are you, What does it mean to be outside of the box? What does it mean to be someone who's outside of the box, who's trying to be inside the box? About 2 years ago. And since then, we've just been grinding away at that question for as long as we can remember. Like Teddy said, we were trying to offer the question in this bubble bath of pop music.
When did you come to this show?
So I came in probably about 4 years ago. Teddy invited me to a now legendary lunch and presented this idea of an immersive musical show
And you
where
being
we
the
would.
master of immersive.
Well, I think that, I mean, thank you. I think, yes, the fact that I was a fan of Woodshed Collective already and following their work and knew what they were capable of in terms of creating something unique and immersive, matched with this specific idea, it felt like Ars Nova jumping in and getting involved could take it to the next level, and that by coming together and adding Mai, the three companies could do something that no one of the
Well, I
companies
think we
could
also
do
need to
alone.
remind,
Yes.
just in case, that Ars Nova was behind Natasha Pierre and the great comet of Should Still Be Running. But and so you had experience with the immersive musical, but this one takes it to a whole other level because Natasha Pierre was relatively self-contained.
That's right.
This one is on 2 floors, several rooms that are all pretty much interconnected, and as we said, on several storylines. When did it morph into this huge endeavor, or was it already
Into a
conceived
house,
as-
well, you're over at the new Art New York Theater, which is this quite a
Beautiful
fabulous space,
space,
and,
it
you
is. Oh,
are,
it's great.
and I feel we see every nook and cranny.
Certainly do.
So what does Ars Nova bring to the table? Distinctively, what is it that you and your group, that they needed you and Ars Nova to do it?
Lunch. Famous lunches.
Exactly. Well, I mean, Ars Nova exists to get behind really ambitious ideas from early career artists and really take big risks, because we're asking the artists to take those same big risks. And so when an idea like that drops in my lap, that's an incredible opportunity for us to get behind something.
So what's your job? Get money? Get consult on the book?
Yeah. We're a nonprofit, so we're raising money like all the nonprofits, and so certainly getting money together, and in this case, more money than ever, and also to cultivate the creative team and really get behind the vision and push them further as a team to figure something like this out, because you can't really just commission a playwright and send them away for 2 years and then get a draft of their commission. You really have to be hands-on and be creating this together.
So
And
was he calling you up and saying, hey, you guys, where are you with this
Oh
thing?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's an inevitable part of the process. But I mean, when we started talking about this idea, I mean, Jason was the first person I called about the idea, because Ars Nova is the place for young artists to take big risks.
Can we talk a bit about the score? The score is by Helen Park and Max Vernon. And I've read on forums and in some reviews that the songs are pastiche and spoofs, and I was thinking they're not at all. They're straight up K-pop. They could work as K-pop singles. The songs themselves are not meant to be fun. I mean, they're funny and humorous, but they're not meant to be parodies. And can you tell me a little bit about how you guys all worked on the score? Because there's a lot of songs too.
Sure. I think there are over 40 songs
40
in the
songs.
musical. And depending on which order you experience the show, you'll get different songs in different orders. Helen and Max are, to be blunt about it, complete geniuses and work machines, and they comprise this incredible, incredible score that is so expansive and sounds like pop music that you hear in the
really
real
does.
world, but also does a tremendous amount of storytelling. So I think the thing that is really wonderful about their work is that it somehow straddles both spheres and still at the same time is its own thing.
And K-pop itself borrows real K-pop.
Right.
borrows so many different musical forms and appropriates so many different musical forms into this genre that I think if you call it pastiche, you're right, but K-pop is pastiche, you know?
Right.
And that's what they've so brilliantly mirrored in the score of the show.
I hope they're going to record this. I hope so.
I hope so
Quite
too.
fabulous.
Yeah,
Now,
working on it.
is there a future for K-pop? What do you think? Is there a way that we can see this on Broadway, you know, in a divided up circle in the square or something like that?
Jason, what do you think?
I mean, we have high hopes. I think Ars Nova and the partners believe deeply that there's a unique future for this show, and we're pursuing that.
And Jason, you're not embittered by the previous Broadway experience where you put up this fantastic show and were not treated as well as you should have been?
Absolutely not. I think that was an incredible experience for
Yes.
Dave and Rachel, and we're so thrilled to have been
beautiful.
part of it, and it was a
Natasha.
wonderful moment for Ars Nova. So it only helps us take big risks again on big, ambitious shows like this.
Yes.
I was wondering also if you've noticed that the show has been drawing maybe different audiences that you don't necessarily see
yeah.
as at musicals, because the energy and just the type of music, it's music you could hear on the radio, well, not in the US, but everywhere else in the world, and it feels, that to me is something that Broadway never gets right. You never feel like, oh my God, what is this I'm hearing? Whereas here, it feels, oh yes, this could come out of the Billboard Hot 100.
We've had an amazingly, I think, diverse audience, both ethnically, racially, and age-wise come to the show. This is certainly not your typical theater audience. And one of the things I find most thrilling about Jason's book is that it's bilingual. And so there are sections of the show, right, that are in English and Korean, and they blend together so beautifully. And it's so wonderful when we have Korean-speaking audiences because they get a whole inside set of jokes that then reinforce this whole theme that Jason is talking about being inside and outside the box. Our audience gets that experience themselves by virtue of their sort of different levels of comprehension of what's going on, which is an amazing and feels like a deeply immersive experience
Yeah.
to have of this world. That's been very, very, very
Because
gratifying.
you have young artists arguing in Korean, and so those of us who don't speak Korean, we get this, but then this other level must be amazing.
Yeah, it feels both exciting because there is a lack of understanding, but also that there is a level of understanding in terms of the storytelling that we're doing and the way that Teddy has staged it makes sense in terms of exactly the storyline that you're following. So it's been a joy to have such a diverse array of audiences and also our cast.
Right, the cast, I was going to say, because it's an entirely Asian cast except for
Ebony
The
Williams.
choreographer,
Ebony Williams
yeah.
plays the choreographer. What's great about the show is that it's a big cast because each of the bands has 6 members and then there's everybody else, but you still manage to create real characters in there. I mean, there's some standouts, and the show allows for the actors to really shine, and we never see that many,
No, they're
unless it's
wonderful.
The King and I, which is a very different thing.
It does also shine a mirror because they're aspiring to make it an American culture, and the very superficial things they are seeing about American culture, which are really there, and it makes us, you know, someone such as myself is looking and going, oh, isn't that sad? That's what they want to be.
And this is part of the brilliance of doing it in this immersive way, where the audience is part of the experience and they're really asked to confront these issues that the questions the play is asking, and also just all of us being in the room together. It's really a breathtaking display of humanity.
Even including the plastic surgeon with the needle ready to shoot it into her
That's right.
face. All right, well, it's...
And on that note.
It's just wonderful, and I really hope that some audacious, big money guy
Make some calls, Susan.
makes because there are big, wonderful production numbers too. It really needs to be seen.
It is absolutely thrilling.
Yeah.
I've been calling it my spirit musical. I've become
So
obsessed
glad.
with it,
Thank
which
you.
is very fitting for the subject too, because it's also a show about obsession.
So, Jason Kim, Teddy Bergman, and Jason Eagan of Ars Nova, all of you have made this beautiful K-pop. Thank you so much for coming here and talking about it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
See you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elisabeth.
Well, thank you.
One of
For
my
having me.
new co-hosts.
I felt so strongly about that show. It was just like, you have to let me do it. I'm going to do it.
Fireball. I keep on ghosting because it's true that you're hot for me when I'm cold to you like the snow. K-Pacheco.
And now I am back here with my guest co-host, Jesse Green of the New York Times. We were in the middle of our season preview, and we were having such a good time that we are doing a little more of it this week. With us is Michael Musto of NewNowNext.com, Elisabeth Vincentelli of The New Yorker, The New York Times, Newsday, and the Three on the Aisle podcast, and Pacheco of the LA Times, and writing a book about the 100th year of the American Theater Wing.
All of the 100 years, not just the 100th year.
Oh, that's right. So we have a little more to talk about previewing the new fall season.
There's a little bit more on Broadway, which we should get to, but also want to leave a little time for off-Broadway, which is having a very exciting season. Often in the fall, that's what happens because there's less going on Broadway. But we didn't mention Latin History for Morons, which is the John Leguizamo play that played at the Public last season and is now moving to Broadway. I myself was not a big fan of it.
Well, I love the idea that he was now a father explaining the Latino background to his son, and again, within the context of everything that had happened.
I'm embarrassed that I did not know enough about my ancestry to pass on to my kids. I mean, I kind of sort of knew about our land timeline. What is that? Everybody knows that, right? 1000 BC, we had Mayans, and then we have now. And what is this, the age of Pitbull? Dame culo, ma culo, todo el culo, dan culo, todo culo.
He's a brilliant performer. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's been able to bring an element that is very rare in the theater, which is Latino theater. It's very rare that you have that, so I thought it was refreshing from that point of view.
That brings me to an off-Broadway thing, which is something called the Sol Project, which is developing the careers of young Latino playwrights and working with a lot of the institutional theaters to actually get productions. One of which is happening at the Public this fall, and is a play I'm interested in. It's a take on Oedipus called Oedipus el Rey.
Well, there's a new cabaret show called Oedipus Rex Reed.
I love
No, yeah, we love her.
Well,
I love everyone that was in Myra Breckenridge,
there's the revival. There's the revival of Torch Song Trilogy off Broadway.
That would
which
probably
is now just Torch Song.
Which is
because
now
it's
just
not a
But
trilogy
it's not the
anymore.
Joan Crawford movie.
Torch Song, obviously, the Harvey Fierstein play, seminal play. They won the Tony Award in 1983 and is now starring Michael Urie and Mercedes Ruehl in the role that made Estelle
Getty
a star, a big star. Yeah, and was, I think, Harvey's neighbor or friend or something, and said, put me in the play, and he did.
So originally, as many people know, this was 3 separate one-act plays that were performed off-Broadway.
at La Mama.
Starting at La Mama, and then were combined into a single evening, a single long evening, and now have, because people apparently can't go to the theater for longer than 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes anymore, have been condensed somehow into a 2-act play of the normal dimensions these days. Curious to see how that works.
Well, now angels in America are just angels. People have shorter attention span. They want to get back on their phones. No, I'm looking forward to this. And the great thing about Estelle Getty is she didn't win any awards for it because nobody believed she was acting. Mm-hmm. She was so that character. Uh-huh. It was like Lorette Taylor or something. Where did this person wander in from? They're not acting.
So another seminal gay play that's coming back, or gay musical in this case, is When Pigs Fly, something I'm particularly looking forward to. One of the craftiest and yet campiest shows of that era, which is, that combination is pretty delightful.
Did you like it?
I adore the original, and it was just pure gay camp bliss. Euphoria from beginning to end, and just light on its feet and witty and topical.
Very
topical. But light.
When pigs fly.
And now now it has costumes by Bob Mackie, who's
Wow.
riffing off of the Howard Crabtree, the creators.
It's so poignant. The
Work.
two of the people that created it, Dick Gallagher and Crabtree, are both deceased. And it's also interesting, both with Torch Song Trilogy and When Pigs Fly, is now to see it in terms of the gains that gays have made, that gays have made over the intervening decades, how these productions will now play. And again, when gays and transgendered are under threat by the Trump administration.
Yeah, there's some question as to whether this material will even make sense to a new generation of kids, both gay and not gay, who don't have a clue that this sort of oppression ever existed. I hope it does make sense to them, because there's a lot of pleasure to be had in those shows.
And there's new oppression that I think they're feeling, this new generation of gay men and women as well. There is this new oppression in terms of the transgender and the right wing that are now in control of the government.
Not to mention President Pants.
President SpongeBob SquarePants. Another show that's coming off Broadway that I'm really looking forward to, because I've seen it twice already in earlier incarnations, is a play called The Wolves, which is about a high school girls soccer team. Did we all see it?
Wonderful play. Yeah, loved it.
I saw Bend It Like Beckham, the musical. No?
It's just like that, except nothing like that.
Is it an import?
No, it's Sarah DeLappe is an young American
It was
playwright.
a Pulitzer finalist.
Yes, it certainly
this
was.
year. And it's a wonderful play. It's done not in the round, but the audience is on both sides of the pitch. And the girls are doing drills. And the cast is actually doing, they have many balls in the air, or rather on the ground at all times. So they
Sounds
really
like
are
Farinelli.
They're doing.
Where is it being done?
It's now being done at Lincoln Center Theater.
Now, you were on the Pulitzer Committee. Did you vote for it?
Well, yes. I voted to include it among the finalists.
Top three.
Very discreet.
Yeah, well, but that's how the Pulitzers work. The Central Committee, the Politburo, makes the final decision.
Politburo.
We only refer a certain number of plays to them.
And Sweat was the winner by Lynn Nottage.
Sweat was the winner by Lynn Nottage.
And how does the title relate to the play?
The name of the team.
It's the name of the team.
Oh, it's the name.
But it also, without going too deeply into it, it reflects, the play is basically about girls coming of age through sport. And you might say that it's about girls learning not to disconnect from their physical selves. So the Wolves may...
It also has an amazing ear for the way teen girls speak. It's absolutely amazing. And especially because you have all these characters and all in their, identical team jerseys. They each have very distinct identities. And it's really spectacular the way the playwright makes those very distinct girls,
fantastic.
women.
So
Well,
Tina
speaking
Fey
of
doesn't have a
I was
monopoly
just
on
going
that.
to say, speaking of teen girls speaking, we bounce back to Broadway with Mean Girls is coming in already in rehearsal, so that will be very interesting.
In the
to
spring,
see.
yes.
Yeah, in the spring. So we Left out Time in the Conways from Broadway, I do believe.
Right. Yes, so that's a show that's happening right
one.
now. This is a play by J.B. Priestley. Has anyone seen it in any other version? I have not.
No, and that's what I love about it. I've never even heard of it, and it's not Gypsy again. It's a new, old play, and it's about a family post-war, 1919 England, optimistic, and then jumps 19 years into the future. It's one of those old standard plays of look how they've changed.
And it's a hard-hitting play. It's a difficult play, and it has, of course, in a central role as the mother of this family, Elizabeth McGovern, playing yet another mother, an aristocratic Englishwoman, as she did in Downton Abbey.
Of the same period.
Of the same period, covering some of the same period. But it is about the disillusionment of the British and class struggle.
And that's at the Roundabout, which, to its credit, is programming it in the slot where they usually put the difficult, possibly less commercial production before they move on to the holiday show. But I'm quite looking forward to it.
I think we're out of time, basically, Jesse. I hope we didn't leave out a favorite of yours, and of course, I'm. I want to, and so you've all got to come back. If the creek don't rise, come back for our spring preview. We'll talk about Carousel and Three Tall Women. And
Well, what do
Oh
we
my
do
God,
if the creek
spring
rises?
And
Yeah.
God is not willing.
and God is not willing, and all this cool stuff that's coming in the spring.
The
So-
spring is mind-blowing, I've got to
spring is
say.
mind-blowing,
The
yeah. What-
spring is
And we'll catch
cray
up with all
cray.
the shows Jesse said he's looking forward to and say, why did you pan them?
I'm always looking
That's
forward to
right.
them until I pan them.
Till you see them.
We'll see what you kill for next time, Jesse.
I have never killed the show.
All right. So I want to thank you so much. My guest co-host, Jesse Green, my future guest co-host, or I think by the time they see this, you will have been my guest co-host. My guest co-host,
suppose.
Elisabeth Vincentelli, my guest co-host, Michael Musto.
Rotating.
My dear associate, Patrick
I'm
Pacheco.
sedentary.
The chopped liver over here.
Yeah, I'm chopped
Thank you
liver.
so much for being here, and thank you all for watching. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you, viewers.
Good night, Moon.
It's a wrap.
I can be a dancer, I can cure cancer. If there's a question, I'm the answer. So just watch me. You get to potty. Choo-ya, baby. I'm gonna try a little harder, to go a little farther, till I cross the finish line. I'm an A plus, 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 A plus, 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 kind of girl. One mistake would cause my heart to break. I'm an A plus, 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 A plus, 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 kind of girl. Rejection, only perfection.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you.